I'll call the regular scheduled meeting to order on this Monday, 20th of Thank you for joining us. Again, we're still fairly new to this meeting, so bear with it. As you speak slowly. Allow a clear second to announce when someone stops speaking before you actually start speaking. Our audio-visual operator, Sergeant McCord, will try to mute and unmute as necessary to conduct the business of the city here tonight. In council chambers tonight, of course, is myself, Mayor Merritt, along with seat 5, Councilman Mr. Black, seat 6, Councilwoman Ms. Kuznar. Via WebEx remotely is seat 1, Councilman Mr. Matney, seat 2, Councilwoman Ms. King, and seat 4, Councilman Mr. Reynolds. Also in chambers is our administrator, Mr. Madden, our PW director, Mr. Friedman, and of course our audio-visual operator, here is Sergeant McCord. If there's others that will dial in, and do we have anyone who's speaking, we'll have those available to us also to recognize at the appropriate time. So first thing, I think if I'll ask on Mr. Reynolds, if you'll lead us in our pledge and invocation.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Please bow with me. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day where we can come together and do the work of the city as leaders of our community, Lord. I pray that you'll help us to get through this time. I pray that you'll give us servants' hearts as we try to serve our communities. We pray, Lord, especially for those who are going through this epidemic, that those who are actually sick and the doctors and folks on the front line, Lord, I pray that you'll protect them, that you'll keep those, get those people who are sick well, and just help and guide us as we get through this current climate, Lord. I pray especially for our frontline folks, the police and the fire, as well as public works, as they're out doing the essential work of the city. I pray that you'll keep them safe, that you'll keep them well. We just thank you again for this time, Father, and I pray that you'll help us to make wise decisions and always look to you for guidance. In your name I pray. Amen. And for those who can join, if you'd like to stand and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Again, I'll welcome you, but I've already done so. I appreciate you tuning in as we conduct the business of the city during this unsettled and trying time. So bear with us as we go forward there. I don't believe we have any proclamations or presentations. Next will be the reading and approval of minutes. We have city council meetings of March the 16th, 2020. What's the pleasure of council? Accept as distributed. I have a motion from Mr. Flagg to accept as distributed. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second in stereo from Ms. Kuznar and Mr. Reynolds. So we'll let Cindy decide which one she wants credit for that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. All
right. Next set of minutes we have will be our emergency council meeting in March 23rd, 2020. Pleasure of council. I have a motion from Mr. Black to accept as distributed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Kuzma beat you to it. I guess with the delay there, I'll try to also work for him. Yeah, that's great. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Mayor. Mr. Black.
I don't know where it's imperative not, we need to state that when the minutes read, everyone was present here. We need to state that video conference record for the matter.
For the minutes.
That will be 23rd. Thanks for calling me.
Yes, I don't see.
Where's imperative or not?
Same as tonight. On the 23rd, standard is corrected would be those in video conference that dialed in would have been Mr. Matney, Ms. King, and Mr. Reynolds. And Mr. Black and myself were in chamber. Correct?
23rd, everyone's here.
So everybody was here. That's right, it had to be.
I think never call me. I'm on video there.
Okay, I stand corrected on that one. So, okay, I stand corrected. Everybody was in attendance for the emergency call meeting on March 23rd. Anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those that would object say aye. Raise your hand. Not hearing any, that carries 6-0 also. Bear with me here, guys. All right, one item of availability as far as tonight, all action items will be voted on by roll call. So please hold your vote until I acknowledge you, and we'll go through the seat number 6. So all action items. That way we get them fully recorded. We've reached our first public comment section. Mr. Manning, did anyone sign up? No one signed up. No one signed up or sent an email in. We'll have another one at the end that we will solicit your public input, and we'll try to turn anybody still there dial in. We'll try to turn mics on. If you dial in, have your time. We reached a report from City Administrator, Mr. Matt. Yeah, I do not have. Okay, so there's nothing to report from the City Administrator. Next item is report from standing committees. We'll go down the order that way if anybody has anything. Finance and Policy Committee, Chairman Mr. Reynolds.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take just a minute to update the city residents for matter of public forum on our budget process of where we're at within the budget. I will be very brief, seeing as we're in a little bit of the audio visual craziness here, so I'll try to be as brief as I can. But again, just wanted to kind of update citizens publicly. For those of you who are not familiar, we've held 2 budget workshops. We held a budget workshop on April the 2nd, where we covered most of the general operating expenses of the city. We held a budget workshop April 16th, where we covered the bulk of the capital purchases for the city. And we will be holding another budget workshop April 30 to continue discussions on the finances of the city. But real quickly, just wanted to update that the city has, I'll say the city administrator as well as staff and council has worked very hard on this budget. It's a strong budget coming the first at first blush. I've been very impressed with Mr. Madden, as the budget that he presented was one of the cleanest budgets that I've been a part of from the get-go, and certainly wanted to pass that praise along publicly for Mr. Madden as well as Ms. Abercrombie and all of city staff. couple of highlights of the budget. There are no tax increases for city residents. The budget has a great strategic planning where we've been looking at the CIP and breaking that all the way out for 10 years, where the city's and city staff as well as council is trying to be deliberate and long range in our thought with how we address our future capital needs. The city's also the budget also presents some options for city employees where we're making sure that we're competitive across the board with all of our departments with other cities, because we believe as a city, or I believe as a representative, that to be competitive, we are in competition with every other city around us and need to compensate our employees as such. This budget looks to continue the improvements that we've made to recreational amenities, as well as continue the progress with the auditorium enhancements at the Cultural Center, as well as provides funding for Prisma Health Swamp Rabbit Trail. And then probably the biggest one that I'm excited about is the improvements to infrastructure, where we're taking an aggressive approach to correcting the city's roads and bringing them up to a standard that we believe our citizens are worth. But other than that, I just wanted to touch base real quickly and give a slight update on the budget and just let folks know that we are working very hard to present a great budget that will serve our citizens well. But the next budget workshop, Mr. Mayor, is April 30th, and that's scheduled for 6 p.m. Will most likely be via WebEx, but we're pins and needles hoping that we can get together and talk about this in person. So best case scenario, we'll be sitting in council chambers talking about it. Worst case, we'll be doing it on this big screen again. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Public safety, Ms. King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick thing, well, not quick, but would just like to again thank our police department and our fire department who continue to work diligently during these uncertain times. For the most part, if not 100% of the time, they're working as normal, as usual. This does not go unnoticed, and myself and our community appreciate them, and I would appreciate if staff would continue to forward these messages to our employees of public safety that they're truly appreciated all the time, but especially during these uncertain times. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. King. Public Works, acting chairperson is myself, Mayor Merritt. Again, echo what Ms. King said also for our Public Works. In this very trying time, you guys have been phenomenal. Mr. Freeman, you pass along our appreciation. Mr. Madden, as well as for you and your staff, they have been there. Every department, they've been out on the streets doing the job. Some of them crossing departments to help out. So a yeoman job to all of Public Works, as well as Ms. King said, our fire department, our police department, especially our first responders. Unbelievable what we're putting these guys through, men and women through right now. So our appreciation and thanks and prayers for all of their safety, all their hard work. Thank you. Other than that, Public Works has a whole list of items, but I'll save that for later. Economic planning and development, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Mayor. While COVID-19 has certainly pressed pause on the economy itself, it has not put a hold on economic development here in the city. And I want to thank Mr. Broad and his team for the work that they're continuing to do so that we can put our foot back on the gas as soon as we get back to normal. So thank you, Mr. Broad, and our economic development team.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil. Building codes, Ms. Kuznar. He has nothing for us right now. Recreation Chair, Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like everyone else has spoke highly of our employees, I'd like to throw kudos in for our staff at the Sports Center. They've been conducting classes online, exercise, when people cannot make it, so everybody wouldn't be getting bigger and fatter. And I'd like to thank Amanda and Kayla, with Mary Jane, Bart, Willie, and all the staff over at the Recreation and Sports Center. They're keeping everything going at this time when we are in shutdown mode. And I've heard a lot of comments real good because they are holding the classes online where they can still participate from home, so they're not losing out on their exercise. I'd just like to recognize all those people and thank them for the good job they've done. Thank you, Mayor.
Of course, anyway, remove that work bar over a little bit. Three faces.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
All right, we're good there.
It'll pick up on who's speaking.
Yes. Moving on to agenda, unfinished business, there is none. Under new business, number A, City Park Walking Trail comes out of Recreation Committee. Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This came out of Recreation Committee to full council for recommendation to approve. This is the card grant that was issued to the city in 2007, which we used for the walking trail at City Park. The Recreation Committee and staff and all agreed, and council, that we have a grant of $21,342 card grant as a matching 20%. So that'll be 16,000 out of that 21 that goes for this project, and the city will have to put in 4,000. And there's not enough to do the whole walking trail. So anyone familiar with, we're putting in new playground equipment at City Park now. And this new asphalt will be around the new playground equipment to get everything started on that. So there's not any tree roots and things in the way. And the bid was awarded to, or recommended to be awarded to Panagakis Asphalt in the amount of $20,000. Like I said, we got a $16,000 card money, we got a $4,000 grant, so total of $20,000 for this project of the asphalt pavement around the new playground at City Park. So I make a motion that we adopt this.
A motion from Mr. Black. There a second.
Second
Second.
from Mr. Matney.
Okay, Mr. Matney with the second. And I heard Mr. Reynolds and Ms. Kuzma are also pretty good with that. All right, any discussion on this? Ms. Kuzma.
Will the work be able to be completed?
According to this, I think we have until the end of May grant. May date in there somewhere, May 28th. Everything should be completed where we can turn in all the documentation as required for the grant. I think it's May the 28th to 30th. I saw the date in there. Yeah, everything should be completed. I think the playground equipment process is being installed as we speak. Might even be finished now, so as soon as they get through Panagakis, it's ready to go with the pavement part of it. It should be.
Okay, so is the quote from Angus still valid? Prices are guaranteed.
My knowledge, talking with Bart Cumlander, the price is still solid at $20,000 quoted by Panagakis asphalt. I haven't heard anything has changed. If you mentioned that,
I don't know.
talking to Bart, it's still a good quote, 20,000. Thank you.
Ms. Kuzma. Any questions? I'll go with Mr. Matney. I will go with hearing none. Ms. King. Hearing none. Mr. Reynolds.
Are we voting or discussing? Are we still in discussion or voting?
We're in discussion.
Oh, okay, then absolutely. Let me say one quick thing. Just wanted to thank the GLDC, our local representatives who signed on to this. We had several that signed in on our favor, and just certainly want to publicly put that out there that we appreciate all that our local legislation does for the city of Mauldin, including this act. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Black, discussion? No, good. Sorry, you're good.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, we'll take a vote. Mr. Matney.
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Kuznar? Mayor, aye, so it's unanimous, 6-0.
That's all we had at this time, as Mayor, out of recreation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Next item, B, annexation at 1215 East Ball Road coming from the Building Codes Committee requiring 2 readings. Ms. Kuzma.
Okay, this is, down on, it's right past the road. And it's a property that sits next to the Dollar General. And the other piece of property is Lawrence. So it says between the two, it's approximately 7.5 acres. And they're wanting to build a caliber collision on that property. Recommended to.
That's all
I
right.
make a motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Kuznar to consider 1215 East Bell Road for annexation as S1. We'll also go around the room and vote. Any discussion, Mr. Matt? None. Ms. King? If they don't say anything, the screen doesn't change, right? All right, hearing nothing from Ms. King, I think we're good there. Mr. Reynolds, discussion.
No discussion from Mr. Reynolds. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Black, any discussion?
That just, like I said, Mayor, that's currently in the county as a C1, I won't bring it into the city as an S1. And it's approximately 7.5 acres, and they're not going to use the entire 7.5 for this, shop that they want to build in there, so. There'll be some vacant land out of 7.5, it'll be all these on S1 that passes council. Thank you, Mayor.
Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, it'll be a vote. Mr. Matney?
Aye.
Aye for Mr. Matney. Ms. King?
Aye.
Aye for Ms. King. Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Aye for Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Black?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Kuzma?
Aye.
Aye, and Mayor, aye. So it passes unanimous 6-0. Nothing else. All right, we're item C, Planning Commission terms limit, also from our building codes requiring 2 readings. Back to you, Ms. Kuzma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, this, it's come up that, we have 2 volunteers who will be coming off June 30th, 2020. They're very good volunteers, and we would like to keep them. The recommendation is to consider the repeal of the provision regarding term limits for members of the planning commission. Several of the other cities do not have term limits on the members of boards and commissions. So I make a motion to consider the repeal of the provision regarding the term limits for the members of the planning commission.
Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Kuzma to repeal the provisions regarding the term limit for members of the planning commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Black. Record all the mics on.
They are controlling them themselves.
Oh, there. All right, then I'll keep you on the roll call. All right, section of discussion, Mr. Matt.
No discussion, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ms. King.
No discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Reynolds.
No discussion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a statement, as this is, printed and we vote on this, this does not prohibit anyone else from applying or running or being appointed to the planning commission. Only thing it does is give these members the authority, or council give them the authority to be reappointed if, council sees fit to. Right now, they can't because they serve a term limit, then they have to step down and they can be reappointed at a later time. This does not prohibit anyone else from volunteering for these positions. And it doesn't mean that they'll be automatically reappointed if someone else applies, they'll have to be voted on, just like they do on the other cases. Not automatic reappointment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Ms. Kuzma, any discussion? No further discussion. We're ready for a vote? Motion before us is to eliminate the term limits for members of the planning commission. All those in favor will go to Mr. Mackey.
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Black. Aye. Ms. Kuzma.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. So unanimous approval, removal on first reading. This second reading next month. All right, next item on the agenda is the authorization to move remaining funds in sanitation from capital to purchase and or maintain our trash carts. This only requires one reading. It is coming out of the PW committee, and as acting chair for that committee, I'll give you a little bit of background on that. We have a surplus of money that was approved for the purchase of a new sidearm loading trash truck. We didn't utilize, so the request is to move $28,813.43 from budget line item 432,970 to budget line item 432,264. The $28,813.43 is made up of a amount of $2,813.42 left in the 432,970 budget, along with $26,000 of money that was from the sale of surplus obsolete items that had earlier council approval. So that's where the total for $28,813.43 comes from. So it came out of PW committee unanimously to be before council for the approval of the transfer of the funds into the 432,264 budget line item. That is a motion for myself. Do I have a second? I have a second from Ms. Kuzma. Is there any discussion? Mr. Mackey?
No discussion, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ms. King?
No discussion.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Reynolds?
No discussion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Black?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Ms. Kuzma?
I have one question.
One question.
About how many cans will that purchase?
About 650.
Everybody heard that Ms. Kuzma's question was about how many cans or garbage cans, carts would that purchase? And Mr. Friesman stated approximately 650. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we're up for a vote on the movement of the funds. Mr. Mackey?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. King?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Black? Aye. Ms. Kuzma?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. So unanimous 6-0. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is item E. Pavement Management Services, also coming out of Public Works Committee. As acting chair, I'll give you the background and motion on that. The city of Mauldin budgeted $35,000 for pavement asset management in its 2020 budget in the Streets Division of the Public Works Department. The assessment would be provided by a company IMS with objective data classifying the condition of the city's road infrastructure. This should assist the city in implementing a comprehensive transportation program, allowing for the improvement of city roads based on needs. This means that the worst roads are improved first. So this would give us a very scientific methodology to classify our roads and approach them. And I think we have approximately 82 miles city-owned streets that this would be directed toward, along with part of the agreement is to do a sidewalk inventory also. And if you've seen the documentation, that would be with a van that has various cameras and scientific equipment mounted on it. So the recommendation coming from the PW committee is that we approve the budget amount not to exceed $35,000, and EMS's agreement is $34,916, and that's in the form of a motion. Do I have a second?
Second from Reynolds.
Second from Mr. Reynolds and Ms. Kuzma. Sandy, you can take the kick on that. And then any discussion, we'll also continue with Mr. Patton.
No discussion, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ms. King?
No discussion.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, one quick comment. I mentioned it in the committee meeting, and I'll say it again here in the public forum. If this IMS's program is as in-depth as their contract is, they will do a fantastic job. This is something I would absolutely support as we look to maintain our roads in a more scientific way and a more deliberate way. So this is a great first step for the city as we move into next budget cycle with the hopes of, again, as I updated earlier, aggressively pursuing our roads and infrastructure as a general. One of the things you commented and I want to comment again on is this particular contract. We're piggybacking with Greenville County. So Greenville County is having this company do some road work as well, and we are piggybacking off that same contract, but also they'll be looking at our sidewalks as well. So you mentioned earlier, but I wanted to touch on that again. That's a big deal for us as we look at mobility within our city. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Black?
I have nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Kuzma?
No discussion.
No discussion yet. All right, and I'll also mention that the city of Greer utilized this company, and Mr. Matthew and I had a chance to go there and review that with Mayor Danner, and it was amazing what their engineer was able to slice and dice and present there. So I think it's a tool well needed for our city of Mauldin and our work that thing. So no other discussion. Call for a vote. Mr. Matthew?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Emphatic aye.
Mr. Black? Aye. Ms. Kuzma?
Aye.
The mayor votes aye, so unanimous there. So move that one forward. The next item on the agenda, item F, authorization to remove remaining funds in sewer from capital to utilities. Only requires one reading. That's also coming out of the Public Works Committee and its acting chair. I'll try to present that also. It's forwarded from the PW Committee to full council to consider the authorization to remove the remaining funds that were approved for the purchase of the backup generator, which was utilized to power the Deer Ridge wastewater pump station. I think it recently had its first test during our storm, and it performed admirably there. The purchase price was $33,240, leaving a total of $30,760 remaining. The request is that we transfer that money to the budget line on 43200 to pay for utility charges, which are being identified as when this, I'm assuming the annexation and the acceptance of the pump station was consummated by the city. There was a failure somewhere to properly record it that would allow the charges from the utilities to be presented to the city instead of to the developer. It was left there. So over that period of time, they have the utility bills that need to be either reimbursed to the developer or paid to the utilities for those charges. And that would be an amount not to exceed what was remaining in that budget line item, along with up to this amount coming from the, purchase price left over from the purchases that generated out of capital fund. So in the form of a motion, we authorize council to make the budget revision to transfer the authority to utilize the amount left in the 439.70 budget amount of 30,760 over to the budget line item 432. That's the motion. Do I have a
Second by King.
All right, Ms. King, got a second? All right, discussion phase, Mr. Matney.
No discussion, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Ms. King?
No discussion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to make sure I'm understanding the motion correctly, the amount is up to the allotted 30,000 and some change, but it won't, no more than what is needed to pay for the utilities will be transferred, correct?
That's correct. Mr. Madden reported that is correct. So we're authorizing him to go up to that amount, but he will only draw down what is absolutely necessary to pay the utility bills. Mr. Lehman is negotiating now with the developer and all those that are interested in the money.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's how I remembered it coming out of committee. I wanted to make sure that's what we were presenting here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This goes back, Brandon, is this correct? Goes back to 2017. When it was deeded over to the city. That's correct, Mr. Black. So they possibly 2017, all year, part of the year, 2018, 19, and whatever it is on 2020. That's correct. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Black, I can't. Yes, we bought the generator for the Deer Creek wastewater pump station, or Deer Ridge wastewater pump station. The utility bills are attributed to the Retreat pump station, which was deeded to us in 2017. So there's two different pump stations that we're talking about.
Okay, where is the utilities come from? Which pump station is that?
Okay, so the generator was just for Deer Ridge, which we've had for 22 years without a generator. The remaining capital going into the utility line is to fund the utility bills for the Retreat, which was deeded to us in 2017.
Right. And the Retreat. I forgot to ask the question. Mr. Reynolds, I think that's the floor. Sorry. Is that where the question came from, was Mr. Black?
No, that's 2017, but I don't see anything about the Retreat. The two different subdivisions.
Yes.
So the utilities expect the payment to where, Deer Ridge or the Retreat?
The Retreat.
You're gonna take the balance out of the generator and apply it towards this. That's overlooked. I didn't see anything about the Retreat. All I saw was Deer Ridge in the generator.
Yeah, and Mr. Black, just add that, that's the money that's needed is associated with the generator.
Yeah, it's underrun.
Yes, and so, but the bills from the Retreat.
Not really clear on that the way it is, but it looks like it won't take it up to 3760 for the power bill at the Deer Ridge, the way I'm looking at it, which is not the case. It's Retreat.
Retreat, yeah, it's just having a funding source for the bill. Retreat. Still dealing with sanitation, still in the sanitation sewer. Sewer.
So.
Now, where's the Retreat located?
That's off of 14.
Yeah, that's really nice question. It's confusing because I didn't see that about Retreat. paying utilities for the retreat. That's 2017 also, man?
The retreat came-
2017,
Yes, the retreat came to us in 2017.
okay. And the funding left over from buying the generator for Deer Ridge is going to be applied if it passes to pay the utilities up to for the retreat.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Clearer now, but I can't see clearly now in this blue paper.
I certainly apologize.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. Ms. Kuzma.
Yes, I have a question, please, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Clinton, do you know about how much these utilities are gonna be?
Right now, when we've gone through the contract, there was a stipulation for a $19,000 credit to be awarded to the city. I have invoked activation of that credit, and if they accept the terms, we're gonna be down to just a few $1,000s.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kuznar. That can be, so be sure the motion is to move the money from the capital amount into a sewer utility budget amount up to the $30,760, which will be utilized to pay the utility bills from the retreat pump station, which I'm thinking is down on Bethel Road and Bridges Road, that intersection there. The 42, 44 homes that are in there. That makes more sense because that did come online in 2017. When they first were set up there with the tax bill that goes on each resident's annual tax bill within that subdivision there. So again, the motion is to transfer from the budget line item 439 said capital to budget line item 430-200 up to the $30,706 necessary to pay utility bills that's accumulated. Mr. Beeman is negotiating. So hopefully that's clear as mud. But just in case, we'll go back around. Any more discussion on that?
No discussion, Mayor.
Ms. King,
No discussion, Mayor.
Mr. Reynolds?
No discussion.
No, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Kuzma? Hearing no further discussion, we will now call for a vote. Back to you, Mr. Pack.
Aye.
Ms. King? Ms. King?
Aye. For the second time.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye, Mr. Mayor.
I'm looking around, I'm expecting y'all to get out here. Mr. Black? Aye. Ms. Kuzma?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye, so unanimous 6-0. I've got one. All right, item 8G on the agenda, Springfield Park Playground Agreement with Cunningham Recreation. Also coming out of Public Works, only requires one meeting, so as acting Public Works Committee Chair. I'll give you background on that. In our 2020 budget, $300,000 in the city's capital improvement plan was appropriated for the purchase and installation of new playgrounds and surface at Springfield Park. Also, we added on to that on January the 27th. We accepted the RF, or had before us the RFP from Cunningham Recreation. Also, coming out of the chair of Recreation was the recommendation to add a fence around those playgrounds. That'll be 3 separate areas, 2 near the baseball field where we have a fencing area, and a walkway in the middle, and then a fence up around the upper area of the playground, another playground area, and fence all around those. Before us tonight is an agreement with Cunningham Recreation for not to exceed for purchase and installation of playgrounds and surfaces for Springfield Park, $268,896. Along with the purchase and installation of fencing for the playgrounds and not to exceed $10,000. So asking for approval up to not to exceed $278,896 before council tonight. That's in the form of a motion. Do I have a second?
Second from Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah, I got a second from Mr. Reynolds, Ms. King, and Ms. Kuzma. Cindy, go for it. Any discussion, Mr. Mackey?
No discussion, Mayor.
Ms. King?
Discussion, Mayor. Sorry, my mic was off.
That's okay. We'll give that second or so. We get through there. Okay, Mr. Reynolds?
No discussion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Black?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Kuzma? Okay, no other discussion. All right, all those in favor, aye. Mr. Mackey?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Black? Aye. Ms. Kuzma?
Aye.
The mayor votes aye, so 6-0, it carries. Move forward with that. Okay, the next one is implementation. Behind them, flipping the page. Give me a second. Also coming out of Public Works Committee, the sewer rehabilitation program, as you aware, has been ongoing, so coming out of Public Works is a recommendation from the committee for us to amend the agreement with, between City of Mauldin and Fraser Engineering. That was an agreement dated March 15, 2015 for engineering construction management services related to the city's sewer rehabilitation program. We'd like to amend that to also add on the $225,000 that was included in our 2020 budget to their Fraser Engineering's existing contract to allow them to proceed with the ongoing sewer rehabilitation program within our city. So the motion is to amend our agreement dated 3/17/15 with an additional budget amount of not to exceed $225,000 to continue the sewer rehabilitation program. That's in the form of the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Black. Discussion, Mr. Mackey.
No discussion, Mayor.
Ms. King.
No discussion, Mayor.
Ms. King. Mr. Reynolds.
No discussion, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matthew, have we ever received, I know it's been discussed many times, the reading from the flow meters, and I think Fraser is taking care of the flow meters, is that correct?
Right,
So
yes.
we can get a rough idea on I for our sewers.
We have-
now.
Mr. Frazier and I are supposed to sit down to discuss the REWA Phase 3 study. Because of the current climate with the COVID, we have yet to sit down and go over the results. When I do, I'll make sure to forward them to council.
And I think that was in the original agreement that we'd be getting reports on the flow meters, and I've got how many, I think Fraser was in charge of those. And they gave the information to, I think, Rewa, Metro, or all three entities, so. We didn't have our own flow meters, so they were maintaining them, and putting them in and checking them and getting the readings on them. That's what I thought we were supposed to be getting some readings, but I hadn't seen any, last year. You might have them, so I just want to make sure we do get them, so we can compare, see where we stand on some of the stuff that we have reading. Thank you, man. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Excuse me.
No discussion, Mr.
No discussion. All right, we're ready for a vote on the motion to amend the engineering, Fraser Engineering Agreement of March 15, 2015 to amend it to add on the additional budget amount of $225,000 to continue our rehabilitation process. All those in favor, Mr. Mackey,
Aye.
Ms. King,
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds,
Aye.
Mr. Black, Ms. Kuzma,
Aye.
Mayor votes aye also, so 6-0, it carries. Thank you. For now, it's a GMDTC participation agreement, funding authorization that comes out of the Economic Planning and Development Committee. Mr. Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. This is simply regarding the relocation of Rothwell Drive there at Millport. We appeared before the County Transportation Committee last year, and they agreed to fund a portion of that road relocation to assist in the economic development there at Millport. So at this time, I would like to, I move that we complete the agreement with County Transportation Committee based on the approval of the action recommended by the Economic Planning and Development Committee to assist the city in the construction of the new Rothwell Drive at East Butler Road.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. I have a motion for Mr. Matney. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Ms. Kuznar. Any discussion? So Mr. Matney, if you'll hold since you made the motion, I'll go to Ms. King.
Say it again, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion on Mr. Matney's motion for the economic plan?
No, sir. Thank you.
I'm sorry, economic development. Not planning. Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Reynolds.
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record, this is the relocation of Rothwell, which is located at Middle Point, which is on the East Butler side of town, right before you get to the 385 intersection. And they're gonna relocate the Rothwell Drive back towards Mauldin to give more distance so they can have a traffic signal later. The state highway and the federal highway will not let you place a traffic signal or intersection within 700 feet, I think, of the intersection. So we're having to move the entrance to this road, and that road will be closed off, and I guess Mr. Shaw will utilize it for construction purposes once everything is completed. Just for information where people will know where it's located, and then have an idea. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Discussion, all right. So we're ready for a vote on Mr. Matney's motion for the participation agreement. All those in favor, aye, or like sign if you oppose, nay. Mr. Matney.
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Black.
Aye.
Ms. Kuznar.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye, so it's unanimous 6-0 to approve the participation agreement. Anything else, Mr. Madden? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, item J, an emergency ordinance to allow for remote Mauldin boards and committee meetings. This came out after committee, so it's a committee of the whole. So do I have a motion to consider this item informally as committee of the whole?
So moved.
And I have a motion from Mr. Black. Do I have a second?
Second by King.
And I have a second by Ms. King. Thank you. All those in favor of the committee of the whole to consider this item informally say aye. Mr. Matthew?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Black? Aye. Ms. Kuznar?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. So we are to be considered committee of the whole, considering action item F, emergency ordinance for boards and commissions. This is a emergency ordinance that only requires one reading. The recommendation coming from staff is found that communities in South Carolina appear to primarily be taking one of two approaches with regard to planning commission meetings. One is conducting them remote or virtual meetings, such as what we're doing here tonight, or two, granting temporary authority to designated staff to review and approve subdivision plans. At this time, it is a recommendation of staff to consider approval of the attached ordinance, which allows the city's board and commissions to conduct remote or virtual meetings similar to what we're doing or like we're doing right now. So that would be coming in as a part of finance and policy. So even though I read it, I would refer to Mr. Rudd. Sorry. Mr. Rose, would you like to make the motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Sorry about that, Mr. Reynolds, make the motion of everything I just read. With emergency ordinance to allow our planning and boards and commissions to conduct remote or virtual meetings. So is there a second?
Second from Matney.
King.
Second from Mr. Matney and Ms. King, so I'll leave that up to Cindy. Any discussion? Any discussion, Mr. Matney?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, the governor's work or home executive order from earlier this month, Section N states this section does not apply to essential or emergency meetings of state or local government bodies or gatherings of government officials or employees or other personnel that may be required in connection with the performance of emergency or essential government functions. However, to the extent possible, state or local government bodies should utilize any available technology, other reasonable procedures to conduct such meetings and accommodate public participation via virtual or other remote or alternate means. That's exactly what this will allow our folks to do. For those of us who are participating remotely and following the governor's request and recommendation, we shouldn't be asking board and commission members to come in and potentially put themselves at risk. So I support this as long as the governor's order is in effect. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Ms. King?
Comment, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Reynolds?
No discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Black?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hart?
No discussion.
No discussion. All right, hearing none, no other discussion, we'll call for a vote on this. Mr. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Black? Aye. Ms. Kuznar?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye also, so 6-0, the emergency ordinance for board and commissions is approved. All right, we are back to the next item on the agenda is public comments. Is there any public comment out there? Mr. Sergeant McCord, do you see anybody raising their hand or anything like that?
Mr. Mayor, I hate to put her on the spot, but our Pomeroy was online earlier. I don't know if she's still on, but if she's available and would like to talk, I'm sure the citizens would like an update of the workings of the chamber during all of this.
Sergeant McCord is looking.
You shot me up earlier.
Yeah, you're live.
I'm trying to get back on.
Pomeroy, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. Am I on?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't control her camera.
Am I on?
If you'd like to enable your camera, your microphone is enabled, so you're good to go, however you'd like to proceed.
It's not popping up. Wasn't.
Wiggle your mouse, it'll be the second button from the left side if your video camera's on.
Okay, I have it.
At your leisure, Ms. Pomeroy, you're free to talk.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I did want to say we had our town hall meeting this past week, and I know that they were talking about we had 2,500 people who called in for that town hall meeting, which I thought was very impressive that we had that many people that participated. Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I have been working from home and in and out of the office. So it's just me at the moment. Kim has to be home with her son to tutor him and make sure he has his classes. But the chamber is running well, and I'm taking a lot of calls here. So I'll be glad when things get back to normal, whatever that is. I'm not sure if you're hearing me.
Yes, ma'am, we got so far, you were just saying you hope you'd be glad when things get back to normal, whatever that is.
Perfect, perfect. So do you have any questions that you'd like to ask me?
Okay, I'll poll the council, Mr. Matney.
No questions for Ms. Pomeroy.
Thank you.
No questions for Ms. Pomeroy.
Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick comment. I would agree with you. 2,500 on the call-in for your town hall was fantastic. And I have to personally apologize. We had 6 members of council that were square in the middle of a budget workshop. Otherwise, we would have all probably been participating as well. So, but I do appreciate continuing on with the town hall, and I'm glad to hear that there was that great of a turnout, Ms. Pomeroy. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. And we are rescheduling all of our events. We're not canceling, but rescheduling. So as soon as we feel like we're able to do that, we'll start getting back together again. So that's all, unless you have other questions.
Mr. Black?
No, just want to appreciate Ms. Ball and her staff, what they're doing. Get down, so.
Ms. Kuznar?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, no questions. Ms. Pomeroy, thank you for the excellent job and the communication you're doing, especially the blast you're putting out that lists all of the small business retailers in the city of Mauldin that at least have participated in takeout. We understand there's a significant group of small businesses that are still impacted, even with the changes the governor made today. But we appreciate everything you're doing to keep those in front of all our citizens. So thank you, Ms. Pomeroy.
Thank you very much, and y'all have a great evening.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing none, I did fail to recognize that I saw our city attorney represented via video conference earlier, Mr. Hughes. Daniel, thank you very much for being with us. All right. There's no other public comment. I did hear something.
I think it was Mr. Hughes.
That was Mr. Hughes. Said again, Mr. Hughes, and got cut off.
I just said glad to be here.
There you are. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Yep.
Recognize you at the beginning. We're now down to the item on our agenda for council requests. Any council requests? I'll start with Mr. Matney.
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ms. King.
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One quick comment. Notice Mr. Hughes had said, I'm glad to be here, meaning at his house while going through this. But one of the things to follow up that with was as we move council to what I would being more in touch with our citizens, one of the proposals we're looking at is to have live stream availability on our council meetings. As we move forward, I was scrolling through all of the screens here and noticing how many folks have signed on, even on this quick occasion of a council meeting. And I look forward to potentially having the ability to televise all council meetings where perhaps we can have more participation from folks who don't have to necessarily come up to City Hall to know what's going on. So certainly, I just wanted to put that plug in there and make a quick comment on that. But that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And I do hope to see everybody in council chambers very, very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to consideration of this stuff before. And I think either in committee or budget workshop, I think Mr. Reynolds made the recommendation that we hold off on this until we get a stormwater fee structure in place. But this is pertaining to the sinkhole that is located on Brooksfield Road that is dangerous. The neighbor went over there, about 5 foot. resident. They put 4 poles in the ground and a tape around it so nobody would fall in that sinkhole, which comes from a storm drain off of the city street into this. And it's, I know it's on the private property now, with everything we have learned, but we cannot find any right of way or deed or the right of way or anything from this stormwater ditch to go back and dump it into the creek to take care of the stormwater off the street. And the pipe is in there when it was put in back in the subdivision was built in the early 70s, since eroded and collapsed. And I would like to see us, and see Matthew and Brandon, because the neighbor next to it, Mr. Ireland, owns the vacant lot, which used to have a house on it that burned, and he owns that lot, and he is willing to deed over or whatever he has to legally to the city, the portion of the property that would be required to put a pipe in there for a right of way or easement. So in the future, the city would have maintained this and wouldn't have to worry about anything concerning private property. So I would like to see if we could move this along a little further, because it is dangerous. There's a hole over there, and if somebody falls into it, I hate to think, since it's been brought to our attention by the reference, what might happen. I just been trying to be a little proactive. I know it's a touchy situation, it is stormwater, but I'd like for us to see if we could do something, and I don't know how long it would take. If the property owner is willing to give the right-of-way easement, how long it would take to change the deed. Daniel's up there looking, but it would have to be recorded, so it'd probably take 6 to 8 weeks to get all that through. So in the meantime, the council approves some modification or something to this storm drain, and we could be ahead of it if we had all of our ducks in a row and we could do something like this. That's just my suggestion, and I'd like to try to help the residents out, because they do not have the money and they did not put it there. They were not responsible. So either Greenville County or the city of Mauldin at one point slipped up, and the storm drain was put in there during the development of the subdivision. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. That's what Ms. Kuzma. Very good. Did you see any other citizen pop up?
Nobody has popped up or waved, but you may want to let them know how to wave in case some of them don't know how.
Okay, and since I don't want to hog the instructions, I'll let you tell them how to wave.
There should be beside their name, if they move their mouse, there is a little icon that looks like a hand. If they click that, it'll appear up on our screen, and then we can turn their microphones on, or they can turn their microphone on to speak.
Okay, any private citizen that would like to speak, if you move their mouse and see the little hand pop up, you'll click on it. It'll show that, and you can enable your microphone and you can speak. So we'll give you a few seconds to work the mechanics out if you so choose. Hearing none, we'll move on then to that. My only comment is thank you, each and every one of you, for what you've done as an employee of the city of Mauldin. We are considered essential. I appreciate those that showed up tonight. We are doing appropriate social distancing, which is keeping with the letter of Governor McMaster and what he asked for if we had to do this type of thing, as well as appreciate those that dialed in via WebEx and participated in that way. Our governor has made this a very scientific, data-driven, and very logical, step-by-step process to get us where we're at. Today, he's taking the same approach as far as freeing up some things. But he reiterated, along with Dr. Bell, that we should not slack up on our social distancing and doing what we have to do in public. If you're out in public, my own interpretation is wear a mask, wear gloves, hand sanitize, wash your hands, and all the things Dr. Bell has been telling us. This is still a very serious type of disease. We're not beyond yet. There is indications that we're actually leveling off a little bit, but we don't want to let up. Even as he reduces some of the restrictions, he wants to take a very methodical approach. And I like the way he's doing that, and we don't plan on easing up our social distancing and efforts also, and doing all of those things that each individual has to choose what their level of participation will be. So we appreciate that very much. I want to wish all of you be safe, be calm, be strong. We'll get through this. I've been seeing the hashtag, I've been using myself, hashtag Mauldin strong. So let's stay there and go there. What do I hear on adjournment? Yeah, I have a motion from Ms. Kuznar. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Black, all those in favor of adjournment say aye.
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 Everybody's mic was on, so it's unanimous. So adjournment, y'all be safe, have a good evening. Thank you very much for everything you've done. Thanks, Sergeant Court. Thank you, Mr. Madden. Mr. Beasley.